Hi, boys and girls. Miss Griffith here. We're going to be reviewing subtraction today. And so you can see on your screen that I have put up a big problem, 40,602 minus 23,784. Remember that we start in the smallest place. Our decimal points are lined up. Here they are. And so we start in the ones place, 2 minus 4. We can't do that. So we go next door to borrow, but there is nothing there. So we have to go to the hundreds place. We cross out the 6. It becomes a 5. That gives us 10 ones. Now, we have 10 tens, 10 tens, but we still can't do 2 ones minus 4 ones. So I take a 10, which means I have to go down to 9. I take those 10 and I add it to the 2, so I get 12. So 12 minus 4 is 8. I go to the tens place. 9 tens minus 8 tens is 110. 500 minus 700. I can't do that. So I have to go to the thousands place, but notice my thousands place there has a 0 in it. So I have to go to the 10,000s place. My 4 becomes a 3, which gives me 10 thousands in the thousands place. But I still can't do my hundreds place. So I take 1,000 away. That gives me 9. I add 10 hundreds to the 500s I already have. So that's 15 hundreds. So 1,500, 15 minus 7 is 8. Drop my comma in my answer. 9,000 minus 3,000 is 6,000, and 30,000 minus 20,000 gives me 110,000. And so our final answer is 16,818. If you were paying attention while I did it, you noticed I never skipped over multiple places. That is to say, I never borrowed and regrouped more than one spot at a time. So don't jump over multiple numbers. Do one thing at a time. All right, I'm going to pause real quick and set up the next problem. We're going to talk about decimals next. All right, boys and girls, this is our next problem. 12 and 3/10 minus 6 and 89 hundredths. So the first thing to remember when we're subtracting or adding decimals is that we need to line up our decimal points. So let's do that. What I taught my students was to go ahead and put their decimal points down on their paper. In subtraction, our first number has to stay first. So I'm going to write down 12.3, and then underneath it, 6 is in front of the decimal point, 8, and 9. This is a subtraction problem. Okay, so now I'm going to change colors real quick so we can see what we're doing. And what's missing here, a lot of you probably recognize we have to put a 0 here. So 0 hundredths, 0 pennies minus 9 pennies. I can't do that. So I go to the tenths place. My 3 is going to become a 2. That's going to give me 10 pennies or 10 hundredths. And so 10 minus 9 is 1/100th or 1 penny. Now I have 2 tenths minus 8 tenths or 2 dimes minus 8 dimes. I can't do that. So I go here to my ones place and I take away a 1. That leaves me with 1. And that gives me 10 tenths plus 2 tenths I already have. That's 12 tenths. So 12 tenths minus 8 tenths or 12 dimes minus 8 dimes is 4 dimes. Decimal point in my answer. Very important. Lots of you have been leaving those out, I noticed when I was looking at some of the graded work from previous. Now we're in the ones place. 1 minus 6 ones. I can't do that. So I go to the tens place. That gives me 0 tens. 1 plus 10 is 11. So 11 minus 6 is 5. And so my final answer is 5 and 41 hundredths. What are the key things to remember? Line up the decimal points, like the buttons on a shirt. Okay, that's the first key point. Fill in zeros and only borrow and regroup one spot, one place at a time. Let's look at one more example before you move on to the practice page. All right, boys and girls, the last problem I want to look at today is this one. 8 minus 6 and 72 hundredths. Now, one of the things that students struggle with all the time is, where's the decimal point? Which number do I write first? What do I do? You know how to do this. Let's start with the first things first. We have two numbers here, and we have a decimal point in this one. So that means I have to have two decimal points down here in my problem. Now, where is the decimal point in 8? The decimal point in 8 is on his hiney, right here, right there on his hiney, behind him. And so what we want to do then is put it down where it goes. So here's 8. There's nothing behind the decimal point. That's okay. And then our next number is 6 in front of the decimal point and 72 hundredths. Maybe you're using a place value chart. That would be awesome because that lines up your numbers too. All right, so there we go. It's set up. So what do we do next? Do you remember? I bet you do, because you know the next thing we have to do is we have to fill in those zeros that are missing, because that's like $8. Remember, decimals and money are the same thing. So now we have $8 minus $6.72, or 8 minus 6 and 72 hundredths. Let's go. You know how to do this. I start in the pennies place, the hundredths place. 0 minus 2. I can't do that. I go to the tenths place to borrow a tenth or a dime. I can't do that because there's nothing there. So I have to go to the ones place, and I cross that out. My 8 is going to become a 7. And that's going to give me 10 tenths or 10 dimes. But I still go back to my pennies place. Notice I still cannot subtract my pennies, so I have to take my dime. That gives me 9 dimes, and that gives me 10 pennies. Or I take a tenth, and that gives me 10 hundredths. All right, so now I can start subtracting finally. 10 hundredths minus 2 hundredths is 8. 10 pennies minus 2 pennies is 8 pennies. 9 tenths minus 7 tenths is 2 tenths, or 9 dimes minus 7 dimes is 2 dimes. Decimal point in your answer, don't forget. Finally, 7 ones minus 6 ones is 1 1, and I get an answer of 1 and 28 hundredths. A strategy that many of my students learned was to highlight the decimal points, or to, I think at one point they were circling them if they didn't have a highlighter, to make sure they were all lined up. Again, line up the decimal points, fill in the zeros, and if a number doesn't have a decimal point, it's on its hiney or its back end. All right? All right, I hope that helped review how to subtract. On the next slide, you have some challenge problems to find some missing numbers. So something kind of fun to challenge your brain. Okay? Good luck, have fun with it, and then do your graded assignment. See you later.